This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Welcome back, everyone. Ever since I've met her, I've learned a lot, and especially for those of us who've been involved in auto accidents. It's a very traumatic time. There's a lot going on there. Learning from her that therapy is available to help you walk through that journey, get to the other side of that trauma and everything that was connected to it. And it's often, maybe always, got to double check that with her, covered by your insurance. That therapy, that it's right there in your policy. We're going to learn about part of this, and that's flashbacks. When you're involved in a traumatic situation, a lot of times your mind goes back there. Why? I don't know. I'm going to ask that question too. She is a mental health counselor at Pressman and Associates, and she's back with us. Miriam Rosario is on the program. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, good. The flashback thing, and it doesn't have to just be a car accident, but certainly your mind goes back to those situations. Before we go even deeper into it, why do we do it? Why would you want to go back to a situation? Why does your mind take you back there?
Well, our mind takes us back there because it's connected to a traumatic event. So it's not something that's voluntarily happening. It's sort of like an impulse because of that trauma that we experienced. The flashback comes in a sense of whatever smell is associated or sound or noise. It'll just bring you back to the accident because that traumatic event hasn't been processed in a healthy way, I should say.
Yeah, and I get it, and I understand it, and you could be triggered, and it brings something back, like you said, could be a smell, or let's say you were involved in an accident with a truck, and now a period of time later, a week, years, whatever, you smell diesel. That smell coming from a truck, and that could instantly take you back. Is it always something that triggers the flashback, or do we sometimes it just comes up?
I would think that it's always something that will trigger it.
Hmm. Yeah, because I wonder about this, Miriam. Why would you want to think of it again? Like, why do you want to go back to that situation?
Right. It doesn't happen voluntarily. What ends up happening is when we have a trauma, it's sort of frozen in our brain, and anything that's associated with it, all of the emotions, the sounds, everything that you can think of that's related to it is locked in with that. So whenever you have an event or a trigger, like you say, which is a better word, you immediately have the response. You think that you're back there. It'll take a few minutes to realize that you're not. You have to have some grounding techniques, breathing or self-talk. And I think trauma is really well known, and these flashbacks are more known for veterans who've been in war. And, as soon as they hear like a loud noise, then they'll jump to the ground to make sure that they're safe, that
Mm.
kind of stuff. Now, when I work with clients that have been in auto accidents, there are times when we talk in session that all of a sudden they smell the airbags that were deployed while they were in the car.
Wow.
And it creates a lot of anxiety for them. Or they hear like a really loud zoom, when a car's driving by really fast. And, that can be part of what the sound is associated with right before they got hit. And they immediately start getting anxious as well.
Wow. Is a flashback essentially or a product of PTSD?
Yes. Yes, I believe that it is.
So I've heard that when we have memories, and it could be It could be a memory from childhood, pops in your head, whatever it might be. And I guess certainly, a flashback like we're talking about, that these things come up because they need to be healed. There's a reason it's coming up. Your subconscious is bringing it up. It's getting triggered from somewhere, but it's almost as if your mind is saying, "Hello, we got to work on
Hmm.
this. I'm having a problem over here. Talk to Miriam." Whatever it might be. There's a reason it's coming up. It doesn't just randomly come up. Do you think
Right.
that might be true?
I believe that that's true.
Hmm.
I do believe that that's true. And it comes up, it's triggered in different ways. It can be just a very subtle smell, a very subtle scent. It could be somebody yelling. It could be a certain type of voice, or a certain type of sound.
There's so many different things that could bring you back there. Certainly with a car accident, it could somebody beeps their horn, takes you back for a second. You said
Mhm.
something really impactful that when you go back there in a flashback, for a moment, depending, could be a millisecond, you have to process whether it was real or not. Like, oh, I'm back. No, I'm not.
Mm.
I never thought of it that way, and that's pretty challenging for those who have been through, especially car accidents.
That's scary. It's
Yeah.
pretty scary.
So you're having a flashback. You're back to the situation. What can we do? What are some maybe first steps that we can do at that moment?
Well, one of the first steps that we can always do, and this hasn't changed, I think, from the very first time we spoke, is breathing, taking a deep breath. You want to look around, and you can also, as you're taking a deep breath and you're calming down, you want to do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, where you name 5 things that you see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste, because that brings you back to the present time.
Never thought of it that way. Can you break that down one more time? Try and remember that the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, what each represents.
So you name 5 things that you see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste.
Wow, never thought of that.
Hmm.
Hmm. This has worked for me as well. Um, this phrase, I am not my thoughts. I am not my emotions. I am safe in this moment. And just keep repeating it.
Hmm.
Somebody told me that long ago, and I've used it a few times when I really needed it. But
Hmm.
what do we want? We just want to feel safe.
Right.
In this situation with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you want to feel that you are safely here now. It's not the flashback is not the current reality. That was then. It's like almost like home base, getting you back to the safe spot. Is essentially all of these things. Is that where it is? Just so we're back feeling safe again.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes, because our anxiety and our stress really comes from not being present to the moment. So with the flashback, you have to self-talk and say, this is a memory, it's not reality. I am safe now, which is very similar to what you say.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's just it's like touching home base. I'm back again. I'm
Yeah.
back again. What are some other things that we can do when we're in these situations?
Well, things that you can touch. I mean, I think that wherever you are, it's important to be able to touch. If you're standing, maybe feel the floor, stomp on it. If you're sitting on a chair, if you're sitting in a seat in a car, touch the seat, touch the handles. If you're home and something happens, that you get triggered, you can splash cold water on your face or put some ice in your mouth. And you just want to do things that are going to be grounding. And then there's also yoga. And part of what
Hmm.
happens too when we go through a trauma is we disconnect from our body. One thing that yoga does is that it reconnects us to our body. and brings us present to the moment and helps to ground us.
Hmm. That is, it's been on, yoga's been on my radar for quite some time, and I haven't gotten into it for no other reason other than I haven't had time. And I had to get past the I can't do the pose physical thing. I go to the gym, I'm active, but that doesn't excite me. But that's needed to connect you with your heart space and to help you block all the other stuff out. That's what I've learned, even just talking to people doing yoga. That's why you do the pose. Part of why you do the poses, so you can focus on that and not focus on all the distractions, the monkey chatter and all that stuff in your head.
Yeah, so yoga encompasses a lot of what is helpful
Mm,
for when you're disconnected with your body, because the trauma really what it does is it disconnects us from our body, from reality. And yoga has the breathing in it, it has the meditative portion of it, and it has the focus. And for people who have a hard time with meditating because
mm,
their minds are wired, and it takes time to practice getting into that mind space. There's yoga offers that it's like a meditation and movement. There's also Tai Chi. It's like a meditation and movement where you're doing something. So it helps with focusing, it helps with the breathing, and it helps with reconnecting your body.
mm. I guess it's a connection. Like we lose the connection to ourselves many times,
Mhm.
just in regular life sometimes. But oh my gosh, if you're having a situation where it's a flashback or even a panic attack, right? Is there
Mhm.
is there a similarity between a panic attack and a flashback?
I would say they would have some similarities because you're not present to the moment when they're happening. A panic attack has a lot to do with being able to catch your breath. So you want to slow things down. But again, that's related to not being present to the moment. So your mind is either in the past or it's in the future. It's not present to the moment.
Hmm.
So again, the method for the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is very helpful because it helps with grounding where you are.
Hmm. Grounding is everything, isn't it?
Hmm. Yes, it is.
I,
Yes,
I,
it
I don't know
is.
if I ever told you this, Miriam, but right now my feet are on a grounding mat.
Really
I can't make it up. Here, right over there, and
nice.
and it's connected to the ground lug on the electrical outlet. No, you can't get a shock from that. And where does that
Mhm.
go? Right through the wire in the wall into a copper wire and then a pipe 4 foot into the ground. Yes, into the ground. You're grounded. You're
Mhm.
grounded. So,
Yeah.
does it make a difference? I like to think it does for a $20 investment. Why the heck not? I can't hug a tree right now, and I can't walk in the woods. Another way to get grounded. So I do that, and yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. You know, why is grounding? Why is that so important? Like, what's going on there?
Well, I think grounding is important because it gives you a sense of connection, right? And when we're not grounded, we're sort of feeling like we're floating, like we're just kind of existing, and we're not actually being present in the moment where we can do something, just kind of feel sort of aloof and out of it.
Hmm. What do you do to ground?
Well, there's a technique that I learned um, with there's a certain way you can hold your hand, right? So if you hold your left hand down and your right hand up, it gives you the feeling of being grounded. If you turn it around and you flip it, then it feels like you're sort of floating, right?
So it's palm up on one hand and palm down on the other hand.
Right. So if you have your left palm down and your right palm up, that's grounding.
Does it matter which hand's doing what?
It does, because once you flip it, then you can feel the difference. So that's one technique. Another technique is breathing. Do you feel the difference or no? I don't know if you can because
I do. I'm almost embarrassed to say that I do, and I'm trying to get
yeah,
out of my head. So I did it a couple of times. That is really weird. And what I'm feeling
yes.
is I feel more resistance when it's not the left palm up
Yeah.
as opposed to the other way around. And I don't know why. I got nothing, but I feel a difference.
hmm Now I don't remember if it depends on your dominant hand.
Hmm.
So if your right hand is dominant, then your right hand, when it's down, you're grounded. And if your left hand is dominant, I don't know if I'm right-handed. So when my right hand is down, I feel very grounded. I mean, another way of grounding would be breathing, meditating, and imagining that you are a tree that has branches that's going way down deep into the earth.
Hmm.
That also gets you grounded.
See, I'm right-handed as well. Like I'll write with my right hand, but if it's anything sports related, athletic, throw, baseball, football, whatever, I can only do it with my left hand. So I find that interesting where, like I'm not jaded either way. I'm not, ambidextrous, but I feel a difference between the two. That is so
hmm
weird. Wow.
hmm
Hmm. Now imagine doing that. You can do that anywhere. And imagine doing that with the intentional breathing that you just mentioned, or just even just taking deep breaths, how that can really just press the reset button in any situation. Wow.
Yeah. It's amazing the kind of little tricks you can do to help.
So some of the other things, if on a longer term basis, some of the things we're talking about, any other things that stand out?
As far as grounding techniques,
Yeah. Yeah. Or just, if you're in a triggered flashback type of situation.
I think that if it gets really bad, it's important to seek professional help,
Sure.
but it's good to have a list of people that you can call that they're aware of the reason that you're calling so that when you have a conversation with them, you can just go right into the reason why you're calling. Like you said, positive self-talk is another one. There's exercising, being creative. These are tools that also help with anxiety and stress, but having flashbacks is part of being anxious as well.
Hmm.
And you can also get panic attacks, like you mentioned earlier. And having enough sleep, eating well, eating right, eating enough.
Hmm. Yeah.
These things are all very helpful.
Even I would imagine hydration. Like if you don't
Mhm.
drink enough, you can't even think, but you don't realize what's going on there at that time.
Right, right. It's amazing how important sleep is. And if you don't get the sleep, how many things can go wrong
Yeah,
within our bodies? I mean, if you don't sleep for a certain amount of days, you become delusional. You can't tell what's real and what's not.
yeah. Or process different
Mhm.
scenario situations, and it doesn't even have to be a flashback or anxiety or panic attack or anything. It's just life in general, that
Right.
presents it. This needs to get done by 4 o'clock this afternoon. Here you go, and you're at work, and you're like, I can't handle it. Well, if you had sleep, proper nutrition, hydration, you probably could be okay with it.
Right.
Hmm. Uh, this I'm still fixated on the grounding technique you gave me. I think it's like so cool. And I would just say, well, I guess you're grounded, but feeling the difference between the two hands, one up, one down. Um, I guess it's do what feels best. And even in that scenario, one feels
Right.
better. One feels like the heavy where the other one's lighter. Um, you work with people in New Jersey, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And going back to when we first started, it's a personal injury protection?
Right.
Is that included in all insurance policies, or let's call it most policies, that there's a provision there? Let's say you need therapy from an accident or something. Is it usually in your policy?
I believe so. I think in the state of New Jersey, if I remember correctly, it's part of the law to make sure that you have it.
Wow. It should be a
Yeah.
law. You know? Like so many of us, could be in that challenging situation. Maybe not every insurance plan covers therapy, unfortunately. It
Right.
depends. Or maybe a high copay. So yeah, I believe that should be in there. And as I learned in the last couple of months, a lot of policies, just throwing this out there. And actually I gave this advice to a friend. He broke down on the side of the road and then got a tow truck and then Ubered to work. I'm like, dude, the towing's in your insurance. He goes, I forgot about that. And the Uber is often included in your insurance as well.
Mhm.
But they don't tell you that because
Yeah, no.
for obvious reasons.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yes, we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, we will. How do we find you? What's the best way?
You can go to the website www.pippna.com, or you can call 856-548-9557.
Thank you for all the tips today and all the insight. For car accidents, people recovering from the flashbacks, but a lot of what we talked about today applies to all of us in any situation. And for that, I thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's great being on.
Appreciate it. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.